meeting to order. And I've asked Mr. Covington to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. We apologize for showing our best.
Okay, 3A, I need a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for September 25th, 2023.
Also move, but there is a correction.
Okay,
Tammy, I forgot the exact wording of that, and you've already changed it.
do I need a second before we
Oh,
discuss?
okay.
Yes.
Okay, I need a second.
I will second.
Okay, okay, go ahead, Mr. Covington.
Yeah.
I believe it's item 7C,
7C, yes.
clarifying the first sentence to make it clear, move the not, so that it's clear that not every meeting that's brought up for a request needs to be approved.
Instead, yeah. So the comments included in the fact that not every conference session, that we don't have to approve every conference that's brought up to our table to the board, I believe. Okay?
It currently says not every conference must be approved.
Oh,
So
okay,
that
so we
would
just
be
need to
in-
change
it-
that,
so- Yes, it's
the not
clarifying.
to, okay,
Correct.
okay,
So, excuse me, Madam Chairman?
yes.
Tammy, so you made this correction as.
I made the
I
correction.
understand.
Mr. Covington brought it to my attention
no.
before the meeting.
So the minutes as drafted are corrected, as corrected are what we're approving. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay,
Call for the question, which means to vote.
all right, Ms. McAfee.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, item B, I need a motion to approve the special meeting minutes for October 2nd.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to accept the special meeting minutes from October 2nd, 2023, item 3B.
Second.
Any discussion?
Second.
I'll be abstaining.
Okay. Ms. McAfee, can you please call for a vote?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Mr.
opposed?
Covington abstains.
Mr. Blaine abstains. Okay, motion carries.
Okay, item C, special meeting minutes for October 13th. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'll have to abstain.
Okay,
And Mr. Covington abstains also.
so Mr. Covington and Watkins. abstain. You ready for a vote?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, item number 4, call to the public. Dr. Wilson, is there any?
I do not believe we have any, Madam President.
Okay. Number 5, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda items as presented, items A through H.
Second.
Okay. There's been a motion to,
I
and a
have a
second.
comment.
Is there a,
Madam President?
yes, discussion?
In item D, which is auxiliary funds, there are a lot of funds that are in the negative. Can that be explained to me?
Mr. Covington, I'd ask our CFO, Ms. Perez, to,
Yeah, Ms. Perez. There's a lot of them that are in the negative, but that concerns me, but I'm sure that you have the proper answer for me.
Yes. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. This is a time of year when we haven't rolled over all the funds from the prior year. So the reports are showing a negative fund balance because of that. In addition to that, we also have a lot of our credit card payments are delayed in terms of when we receive the money into the bank, but then when it gets posted into our accounts are a little later. So a lot of the revenue that comes in into the auxiliary funds are from all the fees that the students paid, and those payments took place between the months of July through October. So some of them are still being posted on there.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right, hearing none, Ms. McAfee, can you please call for a vote?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 6, personnel. Job description for new position, Associate Financial Officer.
Madam President, I, at this time, ask that this item be tabled for future discussion.
Okay,
Also make the motion to table. Item
Second.
6A.
I will second.
okay. Can you please call for a vote?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
B, personnel.
I make the motion to approve items 6A, B, and C.
Second.
Is there a second?
There was one.
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion on this? All right, hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Number 7, information and discussion, A, policy revisions, first read. That would be Mr. Kelble.
Thank you, Madam President. The first two are interrelated. We are bringing back the field trip policy because the recent meeting you repealed the existing one. This reflects more accurately the way it actually works around here. So it's basically the old policy, and field trips need to be approved now by the program director, the chief academic officer, and anything that's over 75 miles away or overnight also requires board approval now. And since we've taken away the responsibility for approving the field trips from the superintendent, we're just deleting that responsibility from the superintendent's job duties. That's section 2(9). That's the first part. So we're eliminating that, and then the rest of it's just the what was the existing board policy slightly revised to say who's approving field trips. And then the last one, this is a little bit of my frustration with the Auditor General. They told us we needed a parking policy. So I went to the ASBA's website and looked at all the parking policies in all the other districts and modeled it after that and what we intended our fees to be, and submitted it to the Auditor General. And then they came back and said, oh, you left something out, despite the fact that I asked them, could you just tell me what it is up in advance so we don't have to go back and forth like this? But they didn't. Anyway, ARS 15342A19 requires that if we have a parking policy, we have to include in it that the board, that the provision for a way to waive the parking permit fee in case of financial hardship. The reason we were not aware of that is it's only $15, where other districts are $150 or $200, and nobody's ever said, you know, that's like 3 gallons of gas. So if you're driving here, you can probably afford $15 parking permit. So anyway, that's the only change. We're putting that in just to make compliance with the statute and to satisfy the Auditor General. And they're probably listening, so I probably shouldn't have trash talked them.
Yeah, is there discussion on this? Go ahead.
Mr. Campbell, are you saying, is it the legislature that has mandated that we have a parking policy, or is this the Auditor General?
No, the legislature mandated that if we have a parking policy, we include that the fee may be waived in appropriate cases of need or economic hardship. The Auditor General is the one that said we need to have the parking policy.
Those guys have way too much time on it. I agree.
So that's just bringing our parking policy in compliance with the statute.
Any more discussion?
I do, I have a question. So can you just clarify for me, please, why or how it is that the under 75 miles field trip is no longer approved by the board. Was it approved by the board prior?
No, but prior policy was only.
never been approved
No, it
by
was
the
never
board.
that way, correct.
Okay, is that standard practice in,
Yes, yes, it is.
okay.
Yeah.
You get
That's
anywhere in
standard.
Maricopa County in 75 miles.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's
Well, they go to
Maricopa
some of the
County.
people.
That is Maricopa County.
It is measured from the campus of the program who's taking the field trip. So if it's a Power Campus one, they're measuring 75 miles from Power Campus. It's coming from here, they measure 75 miles from here, and it probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference because they're not that far apart. Right.
These aren't action
Tucson.
items, they're just discussion items.
Goes to Florence, too. Casa Grande, Apache Junction.
If you've ever ran for a countywide seat, you definitely learn how large Maricopa County is, don't you, Mr.
I'll have to wonder.
Yes,
I mean, our
all the
district
crevices.
is 2 counties.
Yeah. Probably.
That's
Just
correct.
information.
Right,
That's just the
okay.
first read.
Any more discussion on that? All right, let's move to item B, revision to board travel policy.
Madam President, members of the governing board, items B and C are actually kind of interrelated. Item C is designated board attendees for upcoming conferences. So I'll speak to both of those, and I'll kind of go back and forth, just, and if I'm confusing, please correct me. I'm going to really work hard to take a page out of Mr. Covington's and use less words, so wish me luck. So when we were in our last regularly scheduled board meeting, one of the concerns is that we need to have a policy that reflects more accurately what the board intends for its conference and travel usage. So in talking with our Director of Legal Services, one of the things that we'd like is to solicit your input on what are some of those aspects that would be of benefit in relationship to crafting the new policy. So he can craft a new policy and bring it back at our next regularly scheduled meeting for a first read or for further input. The reason why is because obviously, from our perspective, we want to make sure we're meeting your needs, and having input from you in that makes sense. In addition to seeking your input, part of the reason why we brought to you early on this school year all of the trips and travel was so we could get a jump on securing the best rates. Not so much for travel, not so much for hotel and for conferences, because those are sometimes fixed costs, but it's really the air travel. The sooner we can get the air travel secured, the better, because obviously rates go up. As a public entity, we also have to buy tickets that are refundable. So those are more pricey to begin with. And so the idea of having the ability of getting in the front of that was thought to be a good decision by us. So what we're hoping for is that we can get input from you tonight on policy revisions that you would like, and let our Director of Legal Services craft a policy and bring it back to you. But you'll see later in the agenda, there's also an action item for conferences. And the reason why that action item is there is it's probably going to take another 2 at the minimum meetings. And so that puts us at the end of November, first part of December, before we could start securing the travel, which again makes it more problematic for us to get the rates that we hope to get, and to help facilitate those that have to make the travel plans. So in doing that, then the question becomes, how is it that we're going to orchestrate, given our current policy, the decision that you all will make on who goes to what conferences and when? Our current policy, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, our current policy essentially says is that you all discuss and approve the travel and conferences that each other attends. You'll see in the action items that all of the remaining conferences are listed. The thought process is having those separated out individually allows you to go one by one and have a discussion on who would like to attend and the rationale behind it, and then a motion made so that you all can have some assurance that your decision is codified within that action item. I suspect there's going to be some conferences that nobody wants to go to. I would encourage there to be some conferences that nobody wants to go to. And if that's the case, when you get to the item, a motion for a blank conference, if there is no motion, then the item dies, and you move on to the next item. If you get to an item in which one of you is interested in attending, you would say, I move that Chad attends conference B. Is there a second discussion? I'd also like to attend conference B. Well, so would I. Let's amend the motion. I would like Chad, Kevin, and Tammy to attend conference B. so that it is again codified that you guys understand who's going on what trip, so that we can secure your flights and at some point in time in the hotel and the conference registration. One of the concerns I believe exists is, what if an individual, one of you right now isn't sure whether you can attend, or in fairness to Mr. Boyle, who isn't here, wants to attend? This doesn't preclude us from coming back again if necessary. This just allows us to get the bulk of the conferences scheduled and purchased. And doing it this way also allows us, if one of you says, I'd like to go to conference A, but 2 weeks from now you decide that you can't, we can then cancel the conference registration and be able to get the money back before that process gets too cumbersome. So B and C are kind of two parts. B is giving Kevin direction on some of the things that you would like in the policy revision, and C is just clarification on, at least in my opinion, the best way to orchestrate the action items to come. Does that make sense? So, item B, revision to board travel policy. I ask that you please give him some thoughts or suggestions that you would like, so he can take it from there and do his magic.
Okay,
Can I get you started?
I will start. I know I've had some conversation with Dr. Wilson about this, and because every year is different, it's hard to decide on how many, or like if we were going to go by a budget. So, in my opinion, you all can disagree. I think that maybe pick like 3 and leave it at that instead of go by the budget. Like how much.
So you're suggesting just limit the number of trips each board member can take and not
limit
have a
the
budget?
trips.
Okay.
And that's just my thoughts, and if anyone else has any more. I know it changes every year. You know, they may add an extra conference, they may take one away, so that the cost may be different every single year. So that's my thoughts. Anybody else?
I have a thought too.
Are you saying limit the number of conferences per year, or the number that can go to any one conference?
I think the question was that you're limiting the number of conferences each person can go to, or limiting the number of people that can go to each conference.
You hear me?
Yeah, we got it, Mr. Watkins.
I think
Okay.
it needs to be a slippery slope if you have a quorum at a conference.
But if there's a quorum, we just have to post that we're all going to be together, right?
Yeah.
That's it. It's not a slippery slope, it's just a posting of it.
Well, I know there's some that many of us are going to want to go to, so we just,
Yeah.
and I'd want
Yes.
My comment is, I'm on. There we go. If we go to a conference, you're there to learn more about it and support EVIT, not going to visit their friends or something else or whatever else. You're there for the conference, because I've heard different people go to a conference and they're out doing other things, you know. So make sure that you are attending the conference for EVIT, not yourself.
So would there be value in having part of it reflect that there be a report out
Yes.
back to the governing board of those attending, the lessons learned and the benefit from the conference? I mean,
Correct.
does that help
Yes.
capture that?
Definitely.
But those that need to be on the agendas, the last time those got reported, those were not on the agenda.
I thought it was.
I'd have to go back and look, to be honest. The last,
When we discussed that one last meeting,
think it was.
3 meetings ago,
Okay, we'll just make sure.
it was on the agenda.
You're right, it needs to be, and we'll check it, make sure.
It was on the agenda.
Well, I found the report, I appreciated the report, and I appreciated the info.
Well,
since
yeah,
it could go to
it's
that. So I
appropriate,
think that's
yeah.
absolutely something we should do.
Yes, that's true.
Just a real quick comment. I think that, you know, for public record, in case there are questions, I think a brief report of what was learned and how the application of that learning is important. Because then if we have individuals who question, why did you go? Are you on Waikiki Beach, or are you really, you know, learning something from that? I think that written piece is applicable and important for public record, and also transparency purposes.
Dr. Metcalf, are you suggesting a written report or just an oral report at a board meeting?
Got it written, right? We have to write a written
You
report.
You have to write an APA 7.0 research paper, and you must have quotes that are completely correct.
You are hardcore,
It's all
sister.
gonna fail.
No, it can be a verbal.
Or, okay.
Those are in the minutes, that's fine.
Okay.
But you know what, if you really want a research report, we can do that too. It's up to
No,
you.
No, I volunteer Laura.
Can
for
we
that.
work as a team?
No, we can't share the work.
You don't have to do a written report if you're a doctor.
I wrote a book that no one read. It's okay. Verbal
I
is
think
fine.
Just a blanket policy that limits specific numbers, I think that's problematic because it does vary. This year is kind of a busy cycle, more than next year will be. On election years, they rarely don't have a lot of conferences. Just the nature of the beast. This year is an off year, and so they have quite a few more than normal.
I would say if we're looking through them and there's something that pertains to you as a board member and something, maybe it's a discussion, I don't know, because I've looked through some of these and I'm like, why do I need to be at this one? You know, I mean, I see the national policy seminar and, you know, the Hawaii one naturally is the one that has the big, you know, spotlight on it, but it's a regional. So there's other ones I'm like, why would a board member need to be at, you know, specific meetings? And would we take the place of a teacher who should be going or administrator that should be going instead? So, I feel like there needs to be an explanation as to why you feel like you should be going.
So if I understand you correctly, Madam Chairman, you would like to have a justification for the reason for attending.
I think so.
No, I just want to make sure I
Yeah.
understand.
President
I just don't know
Boggs.
how that would all look. I just also said to pick your top three, so maybe the top three has nothing to do with you as a board member and you just want to go learn about the nursing programs. I don't know.
When you said it, cap the number of trips, is that the number you had in mind was 3?
That was just the number I threw out, and that mainly because of this, because we always have a regional and we always have the seminar, or the policy seminar. Those are two that they're always.
We don't have the national one on that list for this year in December in Phoenix.
Is it left off 'cause
It's
it's
just gonna be
$75?
registration or?
Yeah, it's just the registration, and I'm not so sure did the registration on that might have closed. I have to double check the early bird, but I can check and see if there's still.
May I ask a question, and I apologize if it's been publicized and I just haven't seen it. What is the total budget for board travel? And then again, I guess I just go back to what I did as a CTE director, took the total and divided it equally amongst all of the individuals that were part of my team. And then that's what you get to use. You go over that, it's on you, or you go
Right.
under, then you're fine.
Right.
But that's just how I've done it to make it fair.
And I'm not opposed to that. Historically, there hasn't been an identified budget for board travel. And so consequently, we can do that. The challenge became, and I think Ms. McAfee brought this up, that, you know, an X amount, but if there's a conference that's a valuable conference that actually costs more for valid reasons, does that limit? So we can do that if we want to set the amount to President Boggs's point that may change every single year as conferences change. But
Right.
historically, we haven't had an amount.
Okay, I just was curious. Thank you.
That's what I'm most interested in. The price can change. So first I thought everyone gets X amount, but with the price changing, it makes more sense to me to do it, you know, you get X amount, you get 2 times, 3 times, and then let's talk about it because someone might have more vested interest in going to a certain one than another person. So I'm all for it, but I just don't want to drag this out to make this some huge deal.
I hate that
Right,
it
like,
is a huge deal,
Let's
but.
streamline it
but-
somehow and.
Yeah, but when you know, there's 15 conferences and we have board members who want to go to 15 conferences.
Yeah, we need to make
Like,
sure that doesn't
yeah,
happen.
we got to reel it in a little bit.
Right.
I just
You
want
know, we have to be
transparent.
responsible and transparent with that.
Do you still want to have the board
know
vote
that
on
we've
who
had
gets to
that
go to each
problem.
conference? Or if you pick 3, you're good to go, you don't need the complete board approval?
I don't think we
So are we
would,
talking board
So-
approval for each
for
one?
each-
I want to go to this one
Yeah.
and we're gonna approve it and for every,
Yeah, let's just go through it.
So I mean, we can do
You mean
that.
in the future?
This is all in the
yes,
future
So this is
tonight.
the new,
No,
Yeah.
right now, the board policies, you have to vote on who gets to go. I'm saying for the future policy, if you're going to limit everybody to 3, are you just going to trust them if they're going to pick 3 that are appropriate? Or are you going to still be able to have the whole board vote on every one of them?
Madam
I would
President,
like
I
them
would,
to be voted
I
on, every
would
one of them.
encourage you to have them. You're allocated X amount, but I do think it makes more sense when we bring staff, we bring board members, and you can have a discussion. I think
Yeah.
the understanding is that whatever the number is, you get, but I do think it's a better look that it be approved, not just a blanket, you get 3.
No, I agree.
I agree.
Also,
Not on.
not on, I'm on now, yeah. Also, some of the board members work, and it's hard for them to get away and go to these things. So they couldn't go to 3 or something like that, going to Washington DC or some places. You know, it's hard for them to get off of work. So, and like retired guys like me, I have more free time and I can go to them. Past history, not that I'm going to go to all these, I wouldn't want to, but, you know, some people can't. So if you have equal budget for everybody, some of them can't use that budget.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, I'll work at the direction of the majority. I think the budgeting it up becomes a bit problematic for the reasons that we've said. I think if there's an amount that's agreed upon that each board member has, then that would be the budget allocated for those 3 or 2 or 4, whatever the number is. I think the other piece to it that I'm not so sure I heard clarification on is, if all 9 of you want to go to the conference in Tucson, I mean, who wouldn't? Then can all 9 of you go to the conference in Tucson? And that's not a statement one way or the other, but I think that would be something you want to work through. Is there not only a limit on the amount that you can travel, but is there a limit on the number that can attend? And I'm not siding one way or the other. I just think in defense of Kevin, that needs to be something that he understands as well.
My concern would not necessarily be with having a quorum of people at the convention, would be not having a quorum of board members here if something comes up and we have an emergency and we need to take an action. And we can't get you on Zoom for some reason. That would be my only concern with that.
So legally, you want to make sure there's always a quorum that stays behind. Is that what you're saying? You want to make sure the number, is that what you're saying?
Or
Or reachable.
available, but I
Just-
can't imagine you going to any place where there wouldn't be internet, but in case they have one, you know, Antarctica, where they
I
probably have
sign up
internet
for
there
that.
anyway.
I don't plan on ever leaving the country,
Okay,
so I love
One in
America.
okay,
You could be anywhere in the world in 24 hours. Figure out something.
okay.
Someplace to
Just
go.
wanted to just bringing it up. And the last thing is for the travel arrangements, we would like, for the district personnel to arrange your registration, your hotel and standard travel. And then if you want any extra travel arrangements, you want to stay extra nights, you want to go stop someplace else on your way home, then that falls on you to do individually rather than fall on our staff.
Yes.
'Cause
Yes,
'cause they're-
absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
Mr. Hodgson?
I apologize, Madam President. I would like to support the idea of a limited number of travel conferences for board members. And I also agree that in the event of an emergency, having a quorum that's available to meet those needs that come up is also important. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelville, a concern I have is that if we're talking about establishing by policy, something that limits the board this time around, we can't limit a future board by doing this, it seems to me. So my suggestion is, and I would ask your response to that, my suggestion is that there be a suggestion or presumption maybe written in the policy, but I don't know how we can mandate a limitation on future boards like that.
On the number that can go?
Correct.
Well, right, because the future board can just amend the policy anyway, or repeal it or suspend it. So, yes, it would not have any real effect. All right, I hear you. We'll put that down as a suggestion.
So do you have enough to begin the work?
I do. I'm going to work with the number 3, if everybody's okay with that. And when I bring it back, you,
I don't agree with the number 3.
You'd like more?
Well, some years, yes, maybe some years, no. You know, it's just I don't think it fits dynamic organizations that just draw a line in the sand, and that's where it's at.
For example, we are building dorms here. We are opening essentially a junior college kind of program here. we're doing some really interesting stuff. And I can't imagine that there isn't a need for staff to be reaching out and learning how this works for other ways. And some board members who care about this, and I know some of the board members who really do care deeply about the new program, may want to attend the fourth and fifth conference in a given year.
Mr. Hobson,
Next year,
could you
maybe
turn your
not.
microphone on?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Now that I'm finished. Nobody
Yeah.
hears to that. To Mr. Lane's point, I think that, to Mr. Lane's point, I just think that there are years when it would be natural enough, certainly for staff to attend additional meetings and maybe some board members. Given the exciting things we're doing here, I can see how that, in the next year or two, that might be something that's called for.
Correct. Yeah,
I guess I worry about limits like that. I mean, we answer to voters. You know, if we're doing too much and somebody wants to run against us and make a point about, you know, you're abusing privilege, okay. The other thing, I guess, I don't have the information about this, but I wonder how we compare with Tempe Union High School District or Westmac. How do you, any idea how we compare in terms of board travel to?
I will just speak from my experience as being a superintendent. I don't know that I don't know that boards travel very often. I think that some on the boards will travel.
Westmac travels quite a bit.
Westmac
See
might,
them everywhere, yeah.
but I just, in my experience,
FEMA travels a lot, the smaller.
I'm answering the question. In my experience, I think that at times there is excessive, and that's not a bad thing, but in comparison to my experience, that doesn't mean that there isn't a different experience out there.
I can understand not wanting to limit, but I think the structure of this board would be if you've done your 3 and then you found this 4th where you suddenly realize they do have this thing I need to be at, that's where you would apply
So
and you would come and speak to the board and plead your case. This is why.
So you're comfortable with like a presumptive 3, but
Well, I think
not necessarily
I
limit?
think it should be fluid. Things
Right.
do change, such as what we're talking about. But I do want something very clear.
Right.
So I would like to have the 3, and then if there is some
And then
reason,
after the
please come and
discussion,
plead
as
your case.
needed.
Let's have a discussion and let's see, because there's all sorts of
Right.
facts
No,
coming up that I wouldn't know. And
Yeah, I agree.
so I like that
That's a
idea.
great solution, yeah.
I think that's fair, because then as something that came up out of nowhere, or that something has changed, and there's now a conference to discuss an issue, being able to bring that to the board for consideration is also helpful. But I think, I like the black and white piece of well, the clarity and the transparency of being able to have, you are going to 1, 2, or 3, and then being able to document that through a verbal report. So I think that 3 would be the basis, and then an as needed.
You've already suggested you still want the board to approve all of them.
Yes.
So you really don't need, I mean, since you're going to be reviewing them all anyway, if someone's on their 4th or 5th or 6th, you can just say, that's too many. You don't really need the policy to say a presumptive limit of 3, because you could just vote it down at that point, because you're going to vote on everyone anyway. But I'm happy to put presumptive limit of 3 in there.
Well, then we would need someone to be
Yeah.
kind of keeping track, saying Amber McAfee, this is her 2nd. You know, Shelley Boggs, this is her 8th.
Well, and to Mr. Hobson's
threw
point-
you under the bus on that one, sorry.
I just don't
So-
disagree with that whole concept. I disagree putting hard numbers down as policy. I think that's going backwards in things, and if somebody's excessive, then perhaps the doctor,
But what's excessive?
well, going to every single conference would be excessive.
Well,
What about going to 7 of 10? Is that excessive?
I don't know.
Is 5 excessive? Like, how do we know
Well,
what excessive looks
everything's
like?
little different, but, you know, anytime you draw a line in the sand, it just stifles the organization.
And Madam President, members of the governing board, the policy that exists now is a very viable policy. That's the one you're going to function
Yeah.
under tonight, in which you're going to be asked to approve and have dialogue amongst you about who goes and what the vote is. I mean, and there's nothing that says we have to change the policy. We can leave the policy.
Honestly, this is embarrassing. I just want to say that we're grown-up adults having to have this discussion when we should just be responsible adults and not exceed and take advantage of taxpayer dollars. That's what I have to say.
Are you saying that's been going on?
No, I'm just saying the discussion to go to 10 conferences, like that we're even having it is
Well,
crazy.
That's not what anybody has said. I think the current policy is viable, and I would not agree with amending it.
So how about we do this? You've got the feedback from, Kevin has the feedback from you, and he can work through a possible policy. The policy that exists now is the one that exists now, and that's one that you're going to function under in about 2 minutes. So how about we go through tonight's process, and maybe that may help shape some of the decision-making as it relates to not only Kevin's ability to craft policy, but also your understanding and desire to have maybe the policy reflect something different or something similar as we move down the road. Is that fair?
Only, the current policy is in your board packet, and currently requires the board to decide which events will be beneficial to the district, the annual budget, whether the annual budget will provide funds for these events. The board will decide within the budget which members, if any, should attend an event. With the prior approval of the board, board members may participate in meetings other than those authorized in the budget. Attendees at the events will be expected to share new information and experiences with the full board and, when appropriate, staff. That sounds like what you've just been discussing, with the exception of setting a limit, which you really don't need if you're going to vote on anyone anyway. Am I missing something?
I just want to say I appreciate the administration. Come on off. Okay, I'll start over. I just want to say I appreciate the administration of giving us this, the change of attitudes with the new superintendent and everything compared to the other one, which was no one can go anyplace, even though there's policy in there, and
Bill, people could go.
and hopefully because when I was a teacher, I was a fellow, so I was going to a bunch of these. In my first couple years here, I just assumed that being on the board, I'd be able to go to them because I'm still learning from them, and I still learn at this time from them, and I appreciate going, and I had to pay for my own for a couple years to go to some of these, and I appreciate the support.
Well, thank you. I've said I think there's value added by governing board members attending certain conferences. I mean, it's not my position because I work for you, but I think you will see on this list that there are some conferences that probably don't necessarily fit in the wheelhouse of a governing board member. And so I think that in those is where sometimes it gets a bit uncomfortable. So unless there's further information, I think we've got enough to begin cobbling out some sort of opportunity to bring back to you next time. Any questions for me, Madam President, members of the governing board? So as we're on the same page, when we get to the action items, obviously those are the remaining conferences. If you call for the motion, if there's somebody interested in going, that I motion that you have the discussion, you vote one way or the other. If there's no motion, then the item dies.
All right. All right, I guess, do we need more discussion on C? We have to at least hit it, right?
I think, yeah, I tried to pull them together.
Designated board attendee for upcoming conferences. That is C. 7C. We're not voting for anything until 8.
Because we have to decide who's going to go to the conferences listed on the next page.
So again, in my mind, the idea would be, take example, item A, conference attendance, board members, COE annual meeting. A motion would be made or not for somebody to attend COE. If no motion is made, then the motion dies. If a motion is made for Chad Wilson to attend COE, Mr. Covington seconds that, and then Mr. Kelble would like to go, so Mr. Kelble would say, I'd like to go too. So the motion gets amended for Chad Wilson, Mr. Kelble to attend COE.
All right. Okay, are we ready to move to action items, number 8? Yes?
Yes.
All right. Action item 8A, conference in attendance, board members, COE annual meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Do we need names?
So, Madam President, members of the governing board, if I were interested in attending, I would say I move that I
would
attend
love to go.
COE meeting. Is there a second? Yes. Now, if Mr. Covington is interested, he'd say, Madam President, I'd like to amend to attend as well. So
Okay.
there's a couple processes in there.
Got it.
Do we need to have the local one, the national one that's in December on this list?
So I'll bring that back. That's still open. I don't think I can have it on the list without it being noted. I don't,
Okay.
can I? No.
Okay, well, there's no travel or hotel.
Correct.
Yeah, we were
Exactly, it's a
more
local.
concerned with the travel arrangements, getting them
Yeah,
started.
so I'm gonna start out and make a motion for 8A that I attend the COE.
Is there a second for Mr. Lane to attend the COE annual meeting?
So, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
quick,
Atlanta,
point
Georgia.
of information.
It's a neat place to go.
Is it the intention of the board to go through each of these items now and decide which board member is going to want to attend each of these items?
Yes.
Today?
What's the gist of that?
But Dr. Wilson says we can bring it back.
You can bring
if
back and make
if you-
additions or subtractions.
Yeah, if you decide you want to go, if you haven't had time to look through this and you want to bring it back, we can bring it back.
Yeah.
You realize that's just within a few weeks.
Yeah, but I think if we've got airfare right away before Thanksgiving, it looks pretty good for airfare pricing right now.
Madam President, I would be more than willing to entertain a motion to table this until future meetings. I will say to you that it becomes a bit embarrassing, but I do understand the value in tabling it so that everybody feels comfortable.
I would love to table it until everybody has time to look through this and make a
It was in
decision.
the agenda.
Mr.
I would
Lane?
move that we table the agenda item 8, A through I.
All right, is there a second to table?
It's Jay.
Jay, sorry.
Yeah.
No, Jay is second reading.
Well, I think that pretty much is gonna kill the airfare pricing on item A.
I'm sorry, that we
Dr.
said again.
Wilson just
I'm sorry.
suggested that we table it, so I'm
Well, he
sure
made the
that,
suggestion, he can't,
but we're going to vote on it, and it
Could
was
I-
also been,
okay.
Can I make one amendment to mine? I do believe COE happens before the next time we meet. So I would suggest that if there's anybody interested in attending COE, that item be addressed tonight. And if not, then fine, and then we'll table items B through I.
David, can you tell me what the COE meeting's about?
It's an educational conference. I can't tell you all of it. I read through the pamphlet here. It's the first one in your packet.
Yeah, I know, but what in there interests you in going to this, David?
It has to do with accreditation of programs and things that we're going through.
but we don't do that.
Well, we certainly do.
Is there a deadline for registration for this? Have we
No, but it's
passed
the
it?
16th. If you're going to buy an airfare, unless you want to buy the day of travel.
I would assume that if you wanted to go to it, that you would probably looked into what COE is to be able to answer Mr. Covington's question.
Because I've been around this. Does anybody here know what the COE conference is about?
100%.
I believe
Well,
Dr. Wilson
I think we
does,
all-
or Dr. Wilson and.
I mean, I think we- I
Dr.
mean,
My
we-
question is,
Wilson and-
are you attending?
You attended last.
Madam President, could I ask a?
Can you
hold
explain?
on. Can you do me a favor, please? I don't know that it's best practice to be shouting out into the audience. I think
Okay.
if there's a question that you'd like to
Okay.
ask, I think, and I'd be happy to facilitate that dialogue. Not, and like I said, I would be happy to call people up, but I just don't think it's good practice to be talking to the audience.
Dr. Wilson, I'd like to apologize.
Thank you. So, Dr. Schreiner, Dr. Doolin, either or, come on up.
Hi.
My-
Is there,
Is it on? Okay.
is the mic on? There. There you go.
They're red, okay. Tell me how I can help you.
I think that we just kind of want to know what the COE conference is about.
Primarily, there are two main themes. One is looking at institutions that are accredited or will become accredited. How would you complete a self-study? What metrics and things would you use from your institution? What pieces would you be reporting? And the other main theme is those who would be performing the site visits, who would go out. It's a volunteer situation, and once you are appointed, they would send you out to different institutions to go assess the institution to determine whether or not they're meeting the needs of the accreditor.
So those are practitioners who need to attend that conference.
Yes. Yes.
Practitioners who work full-time in the school capacity to ensure that all the pieces are in place for accreditation, and then those trained individuals come back and look at all of the documents that the practitioners are putting together for presentation. Thank you.
And I appreciate your comment. I don't know what COE's reg is regarding if you need to be full-time currently in that role, but yes,
No,
that is
just-
experts within their field.
Correct, okay, thank you.
Okay. Do you guys have any more questions for Dr. Schreiner? No? Okay. Thank you so much for that explanation.
No more shout outs from me. Nice one.
So I am trying to remember what is the
We've
motion.
got a motion for Mr. Lane, who would like to attend the conference at the COE annual meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Ms. McAfee, will you call for a vote?
Hobson,
No.
Lane,
Yes,
McAfee is a no. Boggs,
No.
Metcalf,
No,
Covington,
No,
and Watkins.
No,
Okay, motion fails.
Okay.
clear enough.
Then, Madam President, is it my understanding that you are
We will be
wanting to table
tabling-
the remaining? So you probably might need
So
a
I
motion.
need a motion to table B through
Jay,
J.
I make the motion to table items 8B through J.
B through I.
Oh, it's I. It's I. B through I.
Okay, aye, okay.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that table? Hearing none, Ms. McAfee, will you please call for a vote?
Yes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to 8J, policy revision, second read.
It's the student fundraising policy that I brought to you in the last meeting that just allows Dr. Wilson to approve fundraising activities. Basically it.
Okay. All right, so I need a motion to approve item 8J.
Madam President, I make a motion that we approve item 8J, policy revision, second read.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
That was in unison.
There's a second. Is there any discussion on this policy revision? All right, Ms. McAfee, can you please call for a vote?
Yes, ma'am. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
aye,
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving to item 8K, associate's degree tuition. I need to have a motion to approve. the associate's
Madam
degree-
President, I make a motion to approve item 8K, associate's degree tuition.
Second.
Okay. And now we can move to discussion. Dr. Wilson?
Madam President, members of the governing board, when we last were together, there was some questions or concerns about the associate degree program, the cost, how we calculated the cost, how we compared to other institutions. And so both Ms. Perez and Dr. Schreiner have worked really diligently over the last week to 10 days to try to combine that. So I'm going to ask Dr. Schreiner first to come to the microphone and kind of just talk about the process we've used in building out the associate degree, because I don't know that we've spoken specifically about that. And then Ms. Perez to speak on how we calculated the tuition.
Thank you.
In calculating the tuition, we have looked at like facilities, looking at the institutions in Maricopa County that offer this as a degree program, and have noted what their cost per credit hour is, and then what does that mean? What are they getting for that included in that cost, or what needs to be separate? So sometimes you see a lower cost per credit hour, but a greater number in fees, et cetera. So we have assessed the other programs, and I believe came up with a very, very competitive rate.
Dr. Schreiner, would you kind of just take a real quick bird walk down the whole process that you've had to go through to get to the point of offering the associate degree in terms of building out the curriculum, building out all that you've done?
So in addition to building out the curriculum, there are a number of regulatory hoops to jump through. So this program is COE accredited. We have gone through that process with them. There is a programmatic accreditor, KHEP. We are accredited by them. It is at their behest that we actually are moving to the associate degree. They wanted us to move from a certificate program to a college degree for this. We have worked with the Auditor General to make sure that we meet all of the state's needs and the state's rules in making determinations, how we determine what resources would be needed, et cetera, additional faculty, additional physical resources, science labs, the Surge Tech Theater, et cetera. It's been a very long process, and we probably could have done this in a shorter period of time had there not been so much red tape. It really isn't the process of getting the degree up and running, and I share this because we'll be presenting more degrees to you. So I think we have the process down of all of the steps that we have to go to in order to get there. We're sometimes at the mercy of the others waiting for the responses back and review of our materials.
I got another question. So is there a need for the surgical tech in the valley? And if so, can you speak to the value of being able to jump on prospective applicants sooner rather than later? Sure.
So there certainly is a shortage, and that is initially identified by the OEO, the Office of Economic Opportunity, and they have determined that there is a critical need for this. There's a shortage of adequate applicants for these positions. The operating rooms are very, very short. So part of the challenge is looking at the other schools, for instance, the county community colleges. You complete all of the general education courses. Once they are complete, you then apply to the surgical tech program. And then if you are accepted, you then are put on a wait list until there's an opening for you to jump in. Ours, I am hoping to roll this out January 3rd. Students will be completed with a degree in 5 semesters.
There won't be any way, they would actually be admitted to the surgical tech program, not have to be waiting on a list.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schreiner. Ms. Perez, can you speak briefly to the price point and how that was calculated?
Yes, thank you. In addition to what Dr. Schreiner indicated as far as the process where we did a cost comparison with some of the other institutions, we also looked at the current cost of offering the certificate program and then added, of course, the expected cost that would be to offer the gen eds to include. So in in your packet, we included the information that was in relationship to the cost, and then also what the expected revenue that it would be generating with the cohort, which has a cap of 15 per cohort. And given the current staffing model, we would be able to enroll 2 separate cohorts at the same time. So the cost comparison, we wanted to make sure that we were at least cost neutral, and still remain competitive with the other institutions around the valley. Also in the packet, we gave you the actual cost from those additional institutions, just so that you could see what that compared to.
Madam President, I have a question.
Yes.
So if there aren't enough students to make a cohort, will the program continue even with fewer students?
So, Madam President, members of the governing board, obviously the hope is that we have enough students, right? One of the things we realize, though, as we grow our adult education is that we may have a gap of when we have full enrollment versus the opportunity to not quite have full enrollment. So as an example, if 15 is the number, we may be able to have 30 and have 2 sections, not necessarily right at that point be cost neutral, but when we wrap in the next cohort of 15 and 15, we become cost neutral. So we don't want to deny the opportunity. We can't lose money forever, but we do recognize that at times we're probably going to have to take a step back to take 3 steps forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Dr. Wilson, does this presume that, that these are, all of these are adult students then, or not?
Yes, they are.
So if there were high schoolers that were interested in this, are they eligible to participate or not?
So to where we would say, this is one of the beautiful things, and this is where I give Dr. Schreiner, Dr. Dooland a ton of credit in thinking through the associates program. One of the beautiful things as an institution, it's always up to us to accept, we're the receiving institution of credit, right? So we determine whether we accept credit or not. So if I'm a high school student that's interested in the surgical tech program, what I would encourage them to do is be looking at the dual enrollment like ENG 101, 102, that is going to be part of their gen ed courses when they come here, that they would be able to then transfer to us. We're not quite at the point yet in which we're going to be able to offer the ENG 101, 102 as standalones, like you see on some of our high schools, eventually, potentially. So right now, it's funny that you mentioned there's a student that actually asked that question. And the question was, our advice would be to get on your dual enrollment courses done as much as you can, and then transfer those to us. And because you're an EVIT student, we'll get you onto the list.
So they would get through the program much cheaper than.
Absolutely, they would. Oh, absolutely. And that isn't just a high school student. I would wager that we will have individuals that are coming from other institutions that carry with them transfer credits. And those transfer credits will obviously, in most cases, be accepted by us. And so that price point goes down a bit.
Last question I have, just because of the bad stuff that has happened with respect some for-profit schools, what assurance can you give us that if there comes a moment when there is no need for surgical techs, that we aren't getting young folks to invest $20,000 to become a surgical tech and no job at the end?
Correct.
What are we doing to protect against
So
that?
one of the blessings and the curses of the legislation is that we're required to only be offering in-demand programs. So by statute, we can only offer those programs that are on the in-demand list. And so programs like surgical tech, eventually when we look at programs like paramedic, programs like nursing, are on the in-demand list.
Yep.
And most likely will be on the in-demand list for the short future. But at some point in time, they may slip off by statute, then we can no longer offer those.
Gotcha.
Madam President, I have another question.
Okay.
What and where are you planning to do recruitment for students for these in-demand programs for the associate's degree? I mean, are you looking to recruit not only at the other community colleges, training programs, things like that? What's your plan on the recruitment part? Because I know you want to roll it out in January.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Dr. Dooland to come to the podium and kind of speak to that. I think one of the things that she has championed is the idea of kind of taking care of our own. So Dr. Dooland, if you can kind of speak to that.
Good evening, Madam President, board members. So our first round of recruitment and marketing will always be to our current EVIT high school students. Because this is a post-secondary program and they can't enroll in Surge Tech until they've gotten their GED or graduated, they are a perfect people that we would be advertising this to. We currently already have 30 students on the wait list waiting for you to approve tonight, which is why we brought it to you tonight, is because we already have that filled, and we didn't really do any advertising yet because our students have heard it's coming, and so they've all gone through their counselor here at EVIT and let them know that they were interested. We will, of course, do other recruitment, but we are prioritizing our own EVIT students first.
Excellent, thank you.
And Madam President, members of the governing board, one of the amazing things about EVIT's brand is that in many ways is the best recruitment, the word of mouth. And so part of our expectation, and this is the confidence I have in Dr. Schreiner and Dr. Doolin, is that we will execute a program that speaks for itself, and that markets more than in some ways, more than any sort of other formal campaign can market.
Thank you, very informative, thank you.
A comment. I just want to say thank you, Dr. Wilson. This is exactly, and everyone involved, thank you. This was exactly the kind of presentation and data I was looking for at our last meeting, and you explained it very well. Thank you. The way it's laid out is really easy for me to read, and I understand now. I mean, you answered all the questions, so I want to say thank you to everyone involved. This is perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
It makes perfect sense. I'm very excited for this program.
Anybody else? I would like to also say thank you. I know that this has been ongoing, and since the second year I was on this board, and I'm now in my 5th year. And so I know that there's been a lot of sacrifice and some hard work to make it happen. And so I'm really happy to see that this is going to be, I truly, truly believe that it is going to be successful with the people who have been working behind the scenes to make this happen. So I appreciate all the hard work, and I know it's going to make a difference for our students here at EVIT, which is what we're here to do.
Madam President, members of the governing board, since we're having an emotional moment, I'd like to also say thank you to all of you. And I don't say that facetiously, I say that right word. It takes courage by a board to give the green light, to think bold, to do what's in the best interest of kids. And there's a lot of boards that wouldn't wade in that water. So I'd like to thank you for for being a board that has the courage to do that.
I knew the people who were behind it and how hard they were working to get it done, and I'm 100% faith in it.
Madam President, let's roll this
Let's
ball.
do it. All right. We have a motion to approve the associate's degree tuition.
Second.
And a second. And now let's vote.
Hobson.
Aye.
Lane.
Aye.
McAfee is an aye. Boggs.
Aye.
Metcalf.
Yes, I.
Covington.
Aye.
And Watkins.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations. This is exciting.
Yay.
Congratulations on your hard work.
8L, industry certifications, 23, 24. I need a motion to approve those.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve items 8L.
Is there a
Those approving
second?
Certifications.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, Dr. Wilson?
Actually, Madam President, members of the governing board, I'm going to turn to Dr. Doolin and talk about the industry certification, as it was her team that compiled the list.
Okay. Dr. Doolin?
Good evening again. I'm back. So in front of you, you will have the list of the 2023-24 industry certifications. This is for the EVIT main campus only. This is not the certifications that are offered by program of our satellites. I have asked for that information from our satellite programs and will be providing it to you at a later date so that you can be able to compare what we offer in every program in the certifications here, as well as our satellites, so that you can see how well the whole CTED as a district is performing to get students certifications they need to be job ready. Lots of certifications. We are looking through some of these certifications as the curriculum team and really taking a deeper dive to make sure the certifications offer value. We want them to be credentials, but we also want them to be credentials that carry value into the job market. So we're going to be critiquing all of these through this year, as well as working with ADE. I know ADE is looking at some of the certifications as well. I'll give you an example. The easiest one to give is the OSHA 10. It's a simple certification that doesn't take a whole lot to get. You can get it at home if you would like online, but it is one of the certifications we offer, but we would like to see our programs that offer OSHA 10 offer more than just OSHA 10. So as a curriculum committee, we're looking at that, and some of that might be a portfolio or something different, but we really want to make sure the curriculum is rigorous and relevant and prepares students for the workforce.
All right.
I was kind of amazed at several of the, like automotive and welding and some of those that have several certificates that they can get.
Lots.
It's a lot, yeah. I was amazed at all those.
Yeah. And we do have some students, I know I talked to our head welding instructor, and we do have some of the students in welding who are getting all of them. Some only get half, some get 3 or 4, but there are some that really take advantage of the opportunity, and they get every single one of those welding certificates.
No.
Can we ask for the question, please? Which means to vote. No?
I'm sorry.
We're ready to roll.
We're ready to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I asked for.
Okay. Ms. McAfee, can you call for a vote?
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving to number 9, I need a motion to move into executive session.
I'll move that we move into executive session.
Second?
Ms. McAfee, call.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
We'll go to the typical room. Do you want to take 5 minutes? Anybody have to use a restroom or 5? Okay.
ready? Did he take his medication?
Did you?
Yes, I did.
You did? Okay.
Thank you. These golden years are not so golden.
Okay. We ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Number 10, staff reports. Dr. Wilson.
Madam President, members of the governing board, I will hold my report until our next meeting.
Okay.
Wow.
Closing
not yet.
items, calendar. Calendar. Calendar?
I would like to have the lobbyists.
Oh,
At the next-
sorry.
Excuse me.
I didn't
Thank you. I would like the lobbyists to come in and talk to us and give us updates at least maybe once a month or so.
Sure. We have two
I'd
different that we
appreciate
can,
that, you
we
know,
can talk to.
and then I get to know who they are. It's
Yeah.
kind of, I get this email all the time and go, who's that person? You know?
Yeah, they're very good, absolutely.
Just a question on that. Is Ms. Dellartino, is she going to be at the East Valley School Boards Consortium on the 30th as well?
I will check and see if she is. I don't believe that she is.
Okay, I just
But I will
was-
check
I
and
wasn't
see.
sure. Okay, thank you.
John Kelly might be there. I don't know, from Tri-Advocates.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, I'd also suggest that we have a second meeting in November. And I'd like to schedule it as close to our Monday that we normally have. I know the holiday gets in there, it gets kind of kooky, but I think there's a lot that happens in the organization, and I think that it would be helpful if we met at least twice a month. And so I'll reach out, Tammy will reach out to you and see if there's a way in that
Okay.
latter
Yeah, 'cause
part
we
of the
only have
month.
one on the. one
13th.
scheduled, Right.
Yeah,
on
so one on the 13th,
13th of
and we don't meet again until December. And I understand that there's Thanksgiving in there, but with everything that's happening in the organization, I think sometimes waiting 4 weeks just takes, it's just too long.
November. Okay.
And then I'd also ask that we have a presentation from our lead welding instructor. Under the direction of the lead welding instructor, Dr. Ulan, we began orbital welding here. And I think for him to come in and show you the work that we're doing and the what you guys approved, and then talk about some of the successes students are had. I think it is nice sometimes for you all to see tangibly and hear stories of success that happens because of the work that you do. So I'd like to ask Woody be on the agenda as well.
All right. Ms. Metcalf.
May I
I
ask-
mean, see?
It's all good.
McAfee.
I appreciate that.
McAfee.
Can I ask, I thought we had asked last time if we could possibly have a work study on finances.
Finances, absolutely.
More,
Like thorough.
please, yes.
So,
And gear it towards you're speaking to a 5-year-old.
listen,
So it's very clear.
I'm with you 100%.
I will bring treats if we need it.
So my thought process is that second meeting that I just
That
spoke
would be it.
about would be that.
Okay.
So that it kind of fills in that gap if we need to have some items on there as well as an agenda, but because we haven't planned one, if we have a second one, then that can be heavy on the school finance, and then any items that we might need to cover, we can as well.
Thank you.
Well, it would be more of like a work study, like, you know?
Yeah.
Because as a board, like, you know, sitting here, sometimes it's awkward asking questions.
We'll set it up differently
You know?
so that it's more conducive to that environment. It's still going to be a posted meeting.
Right.
And so, but we can
Right.
configure the space a bit different so that it's a little bit more user-friendly to you all.
Well, we've had board members from other districts reaching out that pay attention, asking if they can come and learn as well.
Oh, good.
So as it being open, they want to come and hear it.
Sure,
Because
they
we
can
all
come
get told
listen and-
we don't know anything. So it's kind of offensive. Okay. Anything else? All right.
I so move
Closing
that we
item.
dismiss.
All right. Is there a second?
Second, Madam President?
Okay. Ms. McAfee, you want to call for a vote?
All in favor to convene, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Adjourn, thank you. I'm tired.